Ray Pinto. Good morning, Mr. Pinto.
Good morning.
You're the Government Affairs Director for Microsoft Europe. Okay. And you, with a lot of other people, have been part of this group of international companies and organizations that have created this vision for a better and more sustainable city in the future, called this thick book called Guide to Sustainia, which is the name of your future vision of a city. What is your background? Why did you create this vision?
So the reason we did that was actually post COP15 that happened in Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. Many people see COP15 as a failure. We didn't, because we saw that long time ago when Rio happened in Kyoto, it brought the political agenda to focus on climate change. Copenhagen and Denmark brought it on every person's dinner table. So how do we get that message across to a very broad group of society to understand, what it takes to lead a sustainable life? It's a very complex issue. And we realized that to date, the message was just complicated. It was using fear. It didn't really talk about the benefits of being sustainable in your home and in your city. And that's what that book is trying to do.
But it's an idea, it's a vision, it's a city that might be somewhere far away in the future. What can we do right now to get closer to this vision?
You know what? I have to tell you that we're doing a lot of this already. In fact, a lot of the trends, technologies, architectures, designs, they're happening today. In fact, you see a lot of it when you walk down the road in Copenhagen. The Danish government and Denmark is, I think, leading this. I would even predict that if this happens, if Sustainia happens, it'll happen in Denmark first.
So do you think Copenhagen is almost the city you call Sustainia?
I wouldn't say almost. This vision is looking 10 years in the future. A lot of the different trends will happen here first. Let me give you a small story. Mm-hmm. Everyone in this room, Brian, yourself, you're actually doing something very sustainable. It happened in 1995 when you started to download music onto your phone. I can ask you, when was the last time you bought a CD?
Oh, it's a long time ago.
So the music industry has suddenly been able to reduce its carbon emissions by up to 50 to 80%. No packaging, no transport, no trucks. Everything else is moving into that space, right?
But you work for Microsoft. What interest does a company like yours have in sustainability in a city like Copenhagen or in Delhi or London or whatever big city in the world?
Yes. First, I should say that it's not just cities. It's also looking at energy. It's looking at renewable energy. Energy used to just come from the power plant to the home. Now your house, your car is actually producing energy. It's distributed, right? So all that energy has to talk to each other, and it needs software. Buildings, when it's going to be smarter, it's going to also need, the software as a language.
So there's a lot of jobs and money in this.
A lot of jobs, a lot of growth that will happen. Microsoft's involved because, I think any company our size has to be involved. But this will also produce a lot of growth. And there's a lot of companies that are tied to our company, to the other 16 companies. We have Dong, Vestas, GE, Philips, IKEA. They're all part of this initiative. And all of these are serious job producers. This vision here will mean that you're living in a healthier environment. I mean, how bad is that?
But you talk about rooftop gardens and broader bike paths. We have bike paths. Yes. We're known for our bike paths in Copenhagen. But how will cities in poor countries like India, Brazil, be able to cope with this vision without money, without having the instruments to do this?
It's a very good question. None of this is going to be easy, by the way, right? I think it's very important to say that if you don't create a North Star for people to try and move towards, then you're not creating a more positive image for people. Now, if you look in Africa, I've been through Africa, and you'll notice that they don't seem to have a lot of telephone wires there because they've already moved to wireless and mobile devices. So here's, an area that has looked at our mistakes in the Western world and has not repeated them and improved on it. So they've jumped a technological gap. What we see in Brazil, they're now using a very rapid transit system. So less people have need for cars. There's buses that show up, I heard, up to every 90 seconds. 20,000 people moved in an hour. You know, the people are able to exchange their waste for bus tickets. So, you know, stuff is happening. There's an organization that's part of this called Ultra Fairwood, and they're rolling out these rapid transport systems all across India and China. So, you know, will it happen tomorrow? No. I think it'll happen, you know, in the coming years. I would even suspect that a lot of the stuff you see in this book will appear in 5 years.
In 5 or 10 years ahead. But these solutions, these climate-friendly solutions,
Yes.
they will not save the Earth climate-wise, will they? It's not enough.
You know what?
If every city, every big city in the world was a city called Sustainia, would that be enough to save the world?
I'd like to challenge that idea because the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, part of the UN, there's some other studies. If everyone is actually using, you know, these existing technologies, again, they're existing, that curve of carbon in the air starts being pulled downwards. And starts being pulled downwards by 2050, where you're removing the carbon that would normally be in the atmosphere. So I think, you know, will it save the planet? I think there's many things that have to save the planet, and there's a lot of challenges there. It will definitely be an important player in improving the planet and the health and, you know, removing the issues of greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pinto, for bringing forth these new ideas.